Memory. It sounds simple, right? It's, the place you store your passwords or that slightly embarrassing story from high school. But the sources we've gathered for you today, they redefine this concept. It's much more profound. Memory is the transmission of information across time.
Exactly. And when you adopt that really expansive definition, the whole scope of human memory just explodes. It goes far beyond the confines of the individual brain.
Right.
We're going on a journey today that takes us from the subcellular, looking at these tiny molecular mechanisms that keep a single synapse alive.
All the way up.
All the way up to the vast societal systems that store human history and, well, culture itself.
It really is a journey from the neuron to the narrative. And our mission in this deep dive is to unpack this mountain of source material and connect these wildly disparate views. We want to reveal how the information that defines your life is stored in the chemistry of your synapses and the resilience of your skin and, in the very structure of your society. Okay, let's unpack this.
So to start at the absolute smallest scale, we have to address what might be the single biggest challenge in neuroscience.
Durability.
Durability in the face of, well, molecular chaos. The proteins that make up your neurons, your synapses, they turn over so quickly on a time scale of hours to days.
So how does a memory last for decades?
Exactly. If memory is stored in the strength of those synaptic connections, how on earth does it last? The strengths should just average out. They should be erased unless there's some mechanism for persistent maintenance.
It's like owning a wooden house that needs constant repair.
A perfect analogy. If you stop the repairs, the house just disappears.
And the mechanism providing that constant maintenance is focused on long-term potentiation, or LLTP. And the source material, it highlights several essential kinases involved in just getting this process started. Enzymes like protein kinase A, or PKA, ERK, CAM kinase in the second.
And particularly the atypical one, protein kinase M-zeta, or PKM. And a kinase, for anyone listening, is just an enzyme that acts like a switch. It turns other proteins on or off by adding a phosphate group. They're the initial spark.
So when researchers model how LTM persists, they're looking at these, what they call autonomous feedback loops.
Right. Basically self-sustaining processes that don't need new input to keep running.
So the first of those systems is CAM-MKII autoactivation. I like to think of this as a kind of self-sustaining switch.
That's a great way to put it. The enzyme persistently activates itself through this autophosphorylation, creating a bifillable switch. It literally stays on until something actively forces it off.
Okay, and the second major autonomous player?
That would be PKM self-sustained synthesis. So here, the PKM protein maintains its activity by actually enhancing the rate of its own creation.
It's a self-feeding loop.
It is. It just ensures a high concentration of the enzyme stays put, which keeps the synaptic strength elevated.
But the sources are really clear. These mechanisms don't act alone. You need this crucial third player.
The synaptic tag.
The synaptic tag.
The tag is essentially a chemical flag. Specifically, it's the phosphorylation of certain sites by those initial kinases we mentioned, CAM-KI, PKA, and ERK.
So think of it like molecular Velcro.
Yes, exactly like that. It is absolutely essential because it's what captures the plasticity-related proteins, the PRPs.
The construction material.
The construction materials that physically increase the strength of that connection.
Now, the modeling, it reveals a really crucial point about how these pieces interact. And it highlights the danger of, well, decay.
Yes.
If PKM self-sustained activity were the only maintenance mechanism, the simulations showed LLTP just wasn't maintained long-term.
That's the critical lesson right there. The persistence mechanism has to do more than just make the kinase. It needs to ensure the synapse stays receptive.
So the molecular Velcro has to be constantly refreshed.
Constantly. It has to allow the synapse to keep incorporating new construction materials even long after that initial memory stimulus is gone. If the tag decays, the memory fades, even if the enzyme is still being synthesized.
Wait, so if the body needs two complex autonomous systems, CAM, KIM, PKM, and a third constantly refreshing component like the tag, just to keep one synapse alive, I mean, doesn't that make LTM incredibly fragile?
That fragility is likely why there's a backup system. So beyond this autonomous maintenance, there's the alternative non-autonomous mechanism.
Synaptic reactivation.
Synaptic reactivation.
So instead of a self-charging battery, this is maintenance that relies on external input.
Precisely. This hypothesis suggests that maintenance relies on ongoing, brief stimuli, little random elevations of calcium and CAMP. And it's assumed they're stronger or more frequent at synapses that are already potentiated.
Ah, so the strengthened synapse basically enhances the incoming stimulus, which reinforces itself over and over.
Yes, recurrently.
And when researchers model that, what does the memory actually look like compared to the autonomous version?
What's fascinating here is the critical insight from the modeling is all about stability. Autonomous kinase activation. That results in a smooth, stable synaptic weight over time, but maintenance driven only by synaptic reactivation. Well, the synaptic weight shows these significant, noticeable fluctuations. It's inherently shaky.
It's always building up and then decaying a little bit before the next stimulus.
Always. That distinction, stable versus fluctuating, is a powerful takeaway.
But it gets more complicated.
Of course. The empirical data complicates things. It seems that inhibiting PKM also inhibits long-term memory. And that suggests that autonomous CAM-KI activation alone is probably not sufficient for maintenance.
So what's the prediction?
The overall prediction, based on this conflict, is that the brain likely uses both.
A synergy.
A synergy, yeah. Autonomous kinase loops and synaptic reactivation may need to act together to maintain LLTP over decades.
So this tiny molecular engine ensures a single memory trace persists, constantly battling decay. Now we can zoom out to the classical map of how the whole brain organizes that information. We spent enough time in the micro world. Let's look at the prevailing taxonomy.
Right, so we're moving from the mechanism of storage to the organization of knowledge. And long-term memory is traditionally split into two major types.
And this is based on where it's stored and how you recall it.
That's right. First, you have explicit memory or declarative memory.
This is the stuff you can declare, the memory that involves conscious, intentional recall.
And that splits into two major subtypes you probably know. Episodic memory, personal events, like remembering a specific holiday, and semantic memory.
General facts, like that the brain has about 90 billion neurons.
Exactly. And the sources confirm this relies heavily on the hippocampus for initial formation and the frontal lobe for retrieval.
Then you have implicit memory, the non-declarative unconscious stuff.
These are the automatic memories that shape your behavior without you even making a conscious effort. The kind you often don't realize you have.
Right, like skills.
Absolutely. The subtypes here include procedural memory skills like riding a bike or typing and priming, where exposure to one thing influences your response to another.
Like the bread-butter association.
A classic example. And this whole system relies on physically distinct parts of the brain, the cerebellum and the basal ganglia.
What's most fascinating to me is how this classical split connects directly to sleep consolidation. We all know sleep helps learning, but why?
Well, the science is very clear on this. Sleep consistently improves declarative and episodic memory consolidation, and it's specific.
It's not just rest.
No, it's an active process. Slow-wave sleep, or SWS, and sleep spindles. Those are the critical ingredients for this hippocampal-dependent transformation. The brain is literally playing back the day's events and strengthening the synaptic connections.
Which also highlights a key vulnerability, right?
A huge one. The sources show that older adults also exhibit reduced sleep-dependent consolidation for declarative memory, and that decline is directly linked to the natural decrease in slow-wave sleep that comes with aging.
But on the promising side, this understanding has led to targeted memory reactivation, or TMR.
Right, the idea that you can use sensory cues during sleep, a specific scent or a sound.
Especially during that SWS phase.
Yes. And it can significantly boost your memory performance. It's like giving the consolidation process an explicit instruction manual. Your brain is always open to input, even when you're unconscious.
Okay, so we started by saying memory is the transmission of information across time. We've covered the tiny persistence mechanisms and the organizational map inside your head. Here's where it gets really interesting. How do we apply this idea of information transfer to everything else that makes up the human experience?
This is where we get to the truly expansive view, that human memory systems are stored in physical substrates separate from the individual brain. This starts with external memory.
Information stored outside of you.
Outside of you. The sources break this down into three major forms. You have social memory, information stored in other people.
So transactive memory.
That's a key part of it, yes. The idea that you don't need to remember everything as long as you know who in your group does. It's the collective intelligence of a family or a team.
Then there's technological memory.
Information stored in the human-made environment. And the span here is just It's astonishing. It ranges from low-tech examples like marked bone fragments, tally sticks from thousands of years ago.
To the printing press, to computers, social media, Wikipedia today.
A whole gamut.
And I have to admit, seeing this final category, it really changed how I think about the world. They introduced this newly defined category, natural external memory.
Yes, information stored in the natural world, outside of human systems. And this is an abstract. It's practical knowledge embedded in the environment.
Like what?
Think about geological records in rocks, astronomical knowledge encoded in the stars, or the vast knowledge of the medicinal properties of plants used by indigenous peoples.
So the information is in the plants themselves.
The information is in the plants, and the knowledge of how to access it is a form of cultural memory paired with that natural substrate. It's a beautiful concept.
That provides a huge scope. But the body itself is a storehouse, too, what the sources call body memory.
And arguably the most perfect analog for neurological memory is the immune system.
Immunological memory.
Yes. It's achieved by memory T and B cells remembering past pathogens. So when they encounter the same antigen again, they mount a secondary response that is much faster and much stronger.
It's a textbook example of savings in relearning.
It is, but it's not flawless.
Allergies. Described as a form of maladaptive memory.
A terrible form of false recognition. The immune system falsely identifies a completely harmless substance, pollen, peanuts, as a pathogen, and mounts this violent, inappropriate defense. It's a memory system that has gone slightly wrong.
Moving inward, we find genetic memory, the DNA itself.
A molecular memory that replicates itself, constantly copying information, and it requires constant self-repair against mutation. But the sources emphasize a crucial difference here.
Compared to the brain.
Yes, genetic memory is inherently precise. It seeks fidelity. Neurological memory is fundamentally reconstructive and malleable.
And layered on top of that precise DNA is epigenetic memory.
This is amazing. These are persistent chemical markers on DNA or histones that record past environmental experiences, stress, diet, trauma, by altering which genes are expressed without changing the DNA sequence itself.
So it's not what the book says, but which chapters are highlighted.
That's a perfect way to describe it. And the research suggests that transgenerational epigenetic inheritance, where these environmental annotations are passed down, it seems plausible in humans. It's like a Lamarckian backchannel linking past experience to future biology.
And finally, we get to the tangible physical records stored in the rest of the body. Your skin, for example.
It stores episodic memory, the physical record of repetition. Think about the thick calluses on a string musician's fingertip.
Oh, it's Taylor's hands.
Yes. And it also stores episodic memory scars, bruises, the record of a single, non-repeated event.
And the sources point out that your bones and teeth, they're the most durable memory system of all.
They're the true long-term archive, potentially lasting thousands of years. They reveal your age, sex, injuries, activity patterns through things like enthesial changes.
Which is where tendons and ligaments pull on the bone.
And leave a permanent record of your strenuous activity. It's humbling to think that your occupation is etched into your skeleton long after the job is over.
And even your muscles exhibit savings.
They do. Muscle fibers gain extranuclei when they grow, and those extranuclei persist even after you stop working out, allowing the muscle to accelerate future growth much more quickly.
That is a huge, complex catalog of storage systems. So now we scale up one last time to the superordinate level, collective memory.
The shared history, identity, and cultural practices of a group.
The glue that defines a society.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, collective memory isn't housed in one place. It's distributed. It's across individual minds, across material culture.
The technological external memory, like monuments and historical texts.
And across social external memory, like oral traditions.
So how is this vast shared memory maintained across generations? I mean, given that it's so prone to human error.
Through the same principles that sustain LLTP, actually. Retrieval practice and spacing. Yes. Collective memories are maintained by repeated retrieval spaced over time. Think about annual rituals like the Jewish Passover Seder or national holidays and commemorations. They're designed to exploit the spacing effect, to embed that memory culturally.
Which makes the rituals themselves a form of procedural memory on a cultural scale.
Exactly. And this extends to procedural collective memory, the ritualized movements and practices passed down, like the sequence of movements in solemn prayer or specific cultural greetings. These practices ensure the memory of how to be a member of that society is physically embodied.
But the sources stress that collective memory is inherently subjective. It's tied to identity. It's not a flawless history book.
Oh, not at all. It is inevitably prone to contention, resistance to change, especially when identity is involved.
Right, like the varying national memories of World War II events in different countries.
Or the ongoing politically charged disputes over observing Columbus Day versus Indigenous Peoples Day. And the collective shapes the individual. Your own autobiographical memory develops within this social and cultural context.
And just as individual memory has flaws, like false memory and repression, which the sources note is scientifically discredited in trauma, collective memory is prone to errors too.
Absolutely. The collective narrative is susceptible to social contagion. So, incorporating false information from others into the accepted history and confirmation bias.
Which is amplified dramatically in digital echo chambers.
Dramatically. The group actively reinforces only the memories that align with its current identity.
So what does this all mean?
It means that the concept of human memory is just.
Right.
It's profound in its scope. It ranges from these molecular positive feedback loops, protecting a single synapse like PKM, the synaptic tag, all the way up to the vast external and biological systems that record our personal and collective histories.
Whether it's in the precise code of our DNA, the protective mechanisms of our immune cells, or the cultural significance of the monuments we build.
All of it.
Memory is, at its core, it's an organizing force that combats entropy. It transmits order and information across time, giving meaning and coherence to our individual and collective existence.
And that universality of ambiguity is what we should leave you with. We now rely so heavily on high-tech external memory systems like generative AI, which can create highly plausible false memories, what they call hallucinations. So if both our most intimate internal memory, our neurological memory, and our most expansive external memory, these digital systems, are both fundamentally reconstructive and error-prone, what does this universal ambiguity imply about the reliability of any information we use to guide our actions in the future? And what additional critical thinking processes are required to separate the fact from the plausible fiction?